Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a couple of different things in this video. Mainly, I just wanted to show you my final ranking on UFC Pick'em for the year 2016. There you can see it, number 316, finished in the top 400 actually for the third year in a row. This was a little bit higher than last year. I believe last year I finished around 325 or so. But I will leave the link to the video in the description for the video that I did last year recapping my final ranking. And I'm not sure how many points I had last year. Finished with 81,000 this year. Not sure if that's more or less, but I will leave that video in the description if you guys want to check what my stats were for the end of last year. For 2014, unfortunately, I did not get my final ranking on video. I may have gotten my ranking going into the final event on video. I can't remember. I'll look for that, and if that's the case, I will post the video of whatever my latest ranking was for 2014 in the description as well. But I did finish around 220 or so in 2014. That was actually my best year. And I don't know why they wiped the stats clean, every year. Really shouldn't be that hard to have some kind of some tracking system where you can view your rankings from previous years. But anyways, that is the main purpose of this video, to get my final ranking out there, 316. But I will also recap UFC 207. I want to start trying to do more recaps on my channel. Probably won't be able to do it for every single event because there's just so many of them. But the bigger events, the pay-per-views, I'll try to have recaps for those. And then because I haven't gotten my picks on video for, I think, every event since Tough 3 finale or Tough Latin America 3 finale, I'm going to show those picks just at the end of the video. Which I'm sure most of you don't care about, but just for me, I like to, get everything out there on video, have the evidence there. But 316. I actually thought that I wasn't going to be able to make this video because, like I already mentioned, they clear your ranking at the start of the new year. And I knew they did that because in 2014, wasn't able to get my final ranking on video. I was disappointed about that. And so last year I was prepared for that, got the video done. But this year I was just being a lazy ass. Even though I knew that was coming, I didn't make the video. And then I tried to make the video late, like 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and the site was down for maintenance, so I thought that was the end of it. I did tweet out my ranking, but I wasn't going to be able to get it on video, so I was kind of down about that. And then when the site went back up, they still had the rankings, and they're clearing them on the 5th, which is tonight at midnight, so there was still a chance that I might not have been able to make this video because I'm just so lazy. But fortunately, the ranking's still there. 316. But I just want to emphasize, like, why can't they get some competent programmers, some good database administrators to run this site? Because that is not a hard thing at all to store the final ranking from previous years, because there's no way that you can see your ranking from previous years, and it would be nice to be able to see all of your picks, your ranking after each event. For past events, how your ranking changed event to event. But just the final ranking after the year is over and the points would be nice. But we don't even get that, so I don't really understand what they're doing. I mean, to me, I'm not an IT guy, but I'm sure that's wouldn't be a challenge at all. Anyways, so let's do the UFC 207 recap. Let's just start at the top of the card, and I'll show you my picks here as I recap the event. So I did pick Rousey by first round submission. A terrible pick in hindsight. And this is exactly how I saw the fight going initially. Whenever this fight was announced, this is how I saw the fight going, and I talked myself into thinking that Rousey will be able to make this more competitive and make it look like more like some of her previous fights. But it's just clear in this fight that she was never a fighter who was going to be effective at closing distance, to tie up, hit the judo throw, at least not on any elite fighter, not on an elite striker. I mean, she can do that to Alexis Davis. She can outstrike Sarah McMahon. She can capitalize when Kat Zingano's trying to come at her, trying to do the same thing to her. But, she, against Holly Holm, she tried to strike. She tried to strike against Amanda Nunes, and she could not afford to do that for 1 second. She needed to get this to the ground immediately. And I don't know if it's she really wanted to strike with Nunes, had the wrong game plan. I think it's just apparent that against an elite striker, she doesn't have the tools, the distance management to get inside and land the takedown. So a pretty devastating, terrible loss for Rousey. She absolutely should not come back. And while I think she did kind of bring all of this hate upon herself with her attitude, the way she carried herself, the way she treated other people, I think it's just sad to see someone who is that dominant and that successful just come crashing down. Nunes, I think at least going into this fight, I counted her out kind of because of the Kat Zingano fight, where she had a really strong start and then managed to lose, gave the fight away. But maybe she's still that fighter, because against Shevchenko, she started strong and then also ended up on her back late in that fight, and that'll probably be her undoing. But in that first round, she's extremely dangerous, very talented, a great athlete. And, if you're like Rousey, if you're not on the same level of her as far as striking and, durability, she's going to put you away. So great win for Nunes. But I just think there's been so much turnover in that women's bantamweight division that, as great as she's been, as dominant as she's been, I don't see her holding that belt for too much longer. At the same time, I don't know who could beat her, but I think Shevchenko actually would probably beat her. She's probably going to lose fading in the later rounds, like we saw against Ngannou and Shevchenko. And the funny thing was is that I would have picked Nunez a year ago to beat Rousey, or not even a year ago, like UFC 200. After she beat Tate, I would have thought at that point she could beat Rousey. And I don't know. I think the more time that passed, I just gave Rousey more of a shot, and that time to analyze this fight kind of allowed me to create a false hope for Rousey, a false belief that because of Nunez's tendency to fade and give the fight away, that she might start strong, but Rousey would get her down and submit her, but wasn't the case at all. And then the Cruz fight, I was just totally wrong about. This fight, I really favored Cruz, and as the fight drew closer, I saw it as a much narrower fight, but still like 60-40 for Cruz. So I really wasn't ready to pick Garbrandt. I wasn't even really ready to call it an even fight. But Garbrandt is just a super athlete. And I had written him off as kind of a non-technical fighter, a guy with big power, great hand speed, but not a technical fighter. And he's absolutely a technical fighter. He's one-dimensional, but one-dimensional does not mean you cannot be technical. And he just beat Cruz to the punch. Cruz's footwork and movement proved to not make him elusive in this fight. Did not have any effect on Garbrandt. And his hand speed, his power is just incredible. And not only his striking, but I think it was when Cruz hit a takedown in the first round. I believe it was in the first round, maybe second. But when Cruz hit the takedown and Garbrandt was able to use the guillotine to reverse it and immediately got back up at that point, that was like the turning point very early in the fight that I realized that Garbrandt was going to be able to hang with him. And then Garbrandt hit a takedown of his own, and it was lightning quick, a great shot. So, we have never seen this guy on his back, and for as long as this guy remains healthy and in his athletic prime, we may not see him on his back. And there really aren't many great wrestlers at bantamweight. Dillashaw might be able to get him down, but Dillashaw he's a good wrestler. I don't think he is such a guy who makes wrestling such a staple of his game. And even if he did just commit to the takedown, I don't even think he's a good enough wrestler to hold down Garbrandt, get him down for the majority of the fight. But yeah, Garbrandt, just amazing performance. And what a year looking back. I think he's absolutely deserving of Fighter of the Year. The Augusto Mendez win, maybe not a relevant opponent, but certainly the Almeida win, which was really eye-opening. I think a lot of people picked against him in that fight. And then the Mizugaki fight, an older guy, but an older guy going downhill, but still a credible opponent, and then taking a huge step up to fight Cruz, and he just dominated him. So great performance by Garbrandt. Cruz, I'm sure he can still, hang with elite guys, maybe get a win over Dillashaw again. But that fight with Dillashaw was really close, and he got hit in that fight. Faber blitzed him in the first round of their trilogy fight, and I gave that first round to Faber. And I think I just didn't account for that enough going into this fight. That Cruz, I think, is more hittable than he was in the past. Obviously, age and injuries are catching up to him. And it really showed in this Garbrandt fight. Garbrandt was a lot faster. Cruz was not elusive, more hittable than ever in his career. And Cruz took an approach that I didn't really think was optimal for staying safe and trying to win a decision. It really felt like he was trying to get the finish. It really felt like he was headhunting, and I don't know. Maybe Cruz felt that Garbrandt would be too dangerous to stick around for 5 rounds against him. But I really felt like from the outset that Cruz was just trying to put him away. And if Cruz had played more of an in and out game, trying to keep distance, trying to jab and stay on the outside, I think he might have been able to get off to a better start against Garbrandt. But maybe it wouldn't have changed anything because Garbrandt is so fast and can close distance so well that may not have mattered at all. Another thing that I really took note of was that Cruz in the pocket, and I guess he always kind of had this striking style, but he was winging wide shots, coming from the side. And it makes his punches slow. He had to cover more distance to hit Garbrandt, and Garbrandt's punches, were a lot straighter. A shorter path to connect. It was just kind of weird seeing Cruz trying to outbox Cody that way, but. Yeah, Garbrandt, great performance. I'd like to see him just go into a super fight. I'd like to see a Dillashaw fight. That's probably what they're going to do. There's drama there, obviously. And as great as Dillashaw looked against Lineker, and as better as I think he would do against Garbrandt than Cruz did, I don't think he could actually get the win, and for that reason, I just really want to see Garbrandt take super fights. I'd love to see him against Mighty Mouse. I'd love to see him against Aldo or Holloway. If McGregor wants to come back down to 145 and Garbrandt moves up, I think that would be an amazing fight. McGregor would have a huge size advantage on him, but if McGregor can make 145 and Garbrandt would want to move up, wouldn't that just be one of the biggest fights ever in history? I'd love to see that. So, yeah. And then Cruz, like I said, I'm sure he can still pick up a lot of good wins over credible guys. I think it's possible he could beat Dillashaw in a rematch. I think it's just as possible, if not more likely, that Dillashaw would beat him in a rematch. But I think just in hindsight, Cruz has lost a step. Just not as athletic as he used to be, and all those years away, all those really devastating injuries, I think, are finally catching up to him. And I still think it's a tremendous feat that he accomplished, coming back from those multiple devastating injuries that kept him out, years. even after coming back from the first injury, and then actually this guy's been injured like 3 times, right? Because he was scheduled to fight Barao back in 2014, got injured then, came back against Mitsugaki, was going to fight who was the champion then? Barao still, right? Was going to fight Barao in 2015, got injured again. So he would still be my comeback fighter of the year. I mean, to come back, win the belt, defend it, and then fight again. It's absolutely an amazing accomplishment. But even if it's just slowly catching up to him, it's enough to, it was enough for him to lose the belt to a younger, much more athletic guy. And I don't really see him being able to beat Garbrandt in a rematch. Okay, then Dillashaw versus Lineker. Dillashaw just looked great, really used his wrestling. He had a really quick shot, but I don't think that kind of wrestling would work against Garbrandt. I mean, he had a size advantage over Lineker. Won't have that over Garbrandt. I guess Lineker can't wrestle. Thinking back to the Ali Bagutinov fight, Bagutinov was able to take him down throughout that fight and really threw off Lineker's striking game. So, I guess Lineker is not going to make it past any good wrestlers, but not only the wrestling on the feet too, Dillashaw, for the most part, was really good, able to counter really effectively and stay at range. I thought it was a little weird that at times he was standing very flat-footed, almost still in front of Lineker. I think against Garbrandt, doing stuff like that would get him lit up. But if he can use that movement, that heavy switching stance style that he has, I think he could give Garbrandt a lot more problems than Cruz did. But the thing is that Dillashaw is not much of a finisher, against guys who are not Renan Barao. He has not proven to be a great finisher, at least not at the championship level. And while I think he could outpoint Garbrandt, I don't think he can finish him. And, Garbrandt has a lot more power. I could see him putting Dillashaw away. We've already seen Dillashaw knocked out by a quicker, more lethal striker in John Dodson very, very early in his career. But I think it would be a similar matchup here where Garbrandt has the speed, the power advantage, and could probably catch Dillashaw at any point over 5 rounds. So I think that'll be a competitive fight, but I can't see Dillashaw winning that. All right, then Kim versus Saffiedine. Just a sloppy fight. I was more impressed with Saffiedine and what he was able to do, even though he lost the fight. And maybe you could argue that Saffiedine won a decision. But, I was more impressed with Saffiedine. He had a nice throw in the first round. Really impressed with his ability to get back to his feet after being taken down. It seemed like he had really trained for that. And, that part of his game was very clean. Kim could not hold this guy down at all. But Saffiedine, he's just too low volume of a striker to be guys at this level. He's not going to be putting away anyone, even though he is a technical kickboxer and was a more technical striker than Kim. And he can just be bullied and pushed around. Kim did it here. Rick Story did it. And I don't know, Saffiedine to me is just kind of one of these guys that had a lot of talent, but couldn't find a style to make it work successfully at the high level. I mean, Strikeforce champion, but beat Nate Marquardt, which doesn't count for much, at least in my mind. So, yeah, and Kim, I don't know, just seems like has the same skill set that he's always had, and it kind of looks more limited now, I think, than it used to, because he used to have some of these beautiful grappling performances where he just stuck on his opponent like glue, had great back control, and was able to ride his opponent's back. And we're just not seeing that anymore. It was that fight against CR Bahadurzada that was really impressive. And against these better guys, he is going back to his grappling more, and doing less of that crazy wild man striking that got him KTFO'd by Woodley. I mean, if he was struggling that much to hold down Saffiedine, I don't see what he could do to a higher ranked fighter. So Kim's good, but I don't really see him going anywhere after this. The Smolka versus Borg. I really wanted to take Borg all along, and I know that's a very douchey thing to say when you pick the losing fighter, but talked myself into taking Smolka just because I really felt that Borg couldn't finish, and I thought that Smolka would kind of get ragdolled and dominated early. I thought at some point just being as long as he is and having that length and height advantage over Borg, I thought at some point he would cinch up a choke, use those long arms, and catch Borg in something. But Smolka's positional grappling, I mean, it looked good against Siri. He eventually was able to secure position against Holohan and get the choke. But other than that, his positional grappling, at least in this fight, it was exposed as being very awful and lacking fundamentals. And I think just his overall game lacks fundamentals. I really don't understand how he beat Ben Nguyen. Just watching Ben Nguyen get a big rebound win over Ryan Benoit, where he looked really good. It just doesn't compute in my mind. If they rematch today, I would absolutely take Ben Nguyen to win a rematch. And even in that fight, Nguyen, I think, got mount in the first round, but definitely, is out positioning him on the ground early, and then just kind of got hurt when they got back to their feet and as the fight went on. But Smolka's striking, especially, which wasn't a factor here, but just seeing, how lacking his fundamentals were on the ground, just kind of brings to mind the performances he had where he really got exposed on the feet. Like, go watch the Richie Vasilic fight. That's the fight I always think of. And Smolka's just getting pounded for 3 rounds. And I mean, hit hard, like he was going to be put away. He was getting beaten up and pulled off this Hail Mary sidekick in the 3rd round that knocked out Vasilic. And, the Chris Cariaso fight got technically outstruck for 3 rounds. Those performances, and then this one, while Smolka is really exciting when he can overwhelm guys with his pace and his aggression, and hurt guys, finish guys like Nguyen, like Holohan. He just lacks fundamental, and a guy like Borg, who was just all meat and potatoes, and just has very little fat on his game. I think he's just going to absolutely dominate Smolka, and you saw it here. Smolka had 0 success against Borg. So Yeah, no hope for Smolka going forward. I mean, if he goes up to bantamweight, that's interesting. Um, but I mean, if he has the same kind of game plan, I mean, I don't see him suddenly having new skills because he moved up a weight class. And I think fighting his style, it would have even less success at bantamweight. I mean, is he going to do that to Thomas Almeida or you know, Dennis Bermudez? No, I don't think so. Bermudez is a featherweight, but you guys catch my drift. All right, so Hendricks versus Magny. This fight was horrible all around for both guys. Yeah, Magny had the bigger moments. If I was scoring the fight, I would have given it to Hendricks. I thought that Magny definitely stole the first round, locking up that triangle, holding it for a while, and getting off some nasty elbows to the top of the skull. I thought he definitely stole that round. But the second round he lost, and third round, well, the same thing happened where he locked up that triangle and got off some strikes at the end. It was for a much shorter time than he was able to do that in the first. So I thought Hendricks won the fight, and I don't know, like the Smolka fight where I don't understand how Smolka was able to beat Nguyen after that performance. After this performance, I don't know how Magny just had such success against Gastelum early, and I know the fight went to a split decision, and he got tagged at the end of that fight, dropped. But how could he? Just really kind of roll over Gastelum technique-wise, matchup-wise, early in that fight, and just struggle so much with Hendricks? I think it's just a strength issue. Magny's not a physically strong fighter. Hendricks came in overweight, and Hendricks is a much more grinding style of wrestler than Gastelum. But Gastelum, especially after that Kennedy fight, really showed he's a much more skilled striker, has a much deeper striking game than Hendricks. And Magny had him completely flustered on the feet and stuffed all of his early takedown attempts in that fight. So this was ugly. And if Magny, can just squeak out a decision that he probably didn't deserve against Hendricks, I mean, what's he going to do against Gunnar Nelson? I would definitely not pick him against Dong Kyun Kim now. Yeah, we saw him just get totally ran over by a more athletic, powerful fighter in Lorenz Larkin. So I just don't have hope for Magny going forward. And then Hendricks, even though this was a win over a decent guy, he should just retire or move up to middleweight, where he's definitely way too small. But I mean, if he just wants to get a couple more fights in, make some more money while he still can, he should definitely move up to middleweight. I mean, the pre-fight interviews, looking at this guy just kind of keeling over, just fidgety when he's doing the interviews, not seeming to be comfortable standing upright, and then just listening to what he was saying, he just sounded kind of deranged and delirious, like he didn't know where he was at. It's sad, and I don't see him really laying praying any higher level fighters than Magny that way. So just an ugly fight all around. Carlos Jr. versus Martin Vettori. Another sloppy fight, and this was one where I was really close to taking Vettori, and I know a lot of other people did take Vettori. Um, yeah, Junior is not improving as a fighter. He's a strong grappler, but he's got the same skill set that he's had since day one, which is is a physical, aggressive grappler who can ride you. He can grind you down to get a submission, but he does not get quick submissions. And he has questionable heart. He has a questionable will. I think this guy is weak, mentally weak. He just doesn't have the fight in him. That Dan Kelly fight, he got a 40-year-old man down in the first round, had his back, and for the entire first round couldn't put him away. And then his wheels just completely flew off in the second round, and just got shit kicked by a 40-year-old man, got his nose broken. And then Vettori almost did the same thing here after a strong first round. Vettori was able to get on top of him, almost had the guillotine, got off some big ground and pound, nearly had the fight stopped. And Junior recovered and took that third round. But I think, he doesn't have the cardio, he doesn't have the heart, the durability, and not much striking either to really progress in that division. So Junior has become stagnant, and Vettori, not a bad loss at all. I mean, just got outgrinded by a more experienced fighter who's had a lot more. He's had a lot more UFC fights than him, but only Vettori's second fight, and he almost pulled out the finish. So, it's his skill development hopefully continues to improve. I think Vettori can, he can be a lot better. So I'm looking forward to seeing his development. Pyle Garcia, I picked Garcia, but I was really hesitant about the pick. Almost ended up taking Pyle in this fight, and even after seeing Garcia just clock this guy. After seeing the knockout actually happen, still doesn't. I still can't believe it, because Garcia's just been so horrible in his other fights. Looked awful against Sean Strickland. Didn't even look good against Mike Pierce, coming back from a multiple year-long layoff and a life-threatening injury. Didn't even look good against him. So to see that guy, and a guy who, a couple of occasions almost got knocked out by Sean Spencer, seeing that guy, to stop Pyle, who should have had a lot more craft and a lot more versatility to his striking, and should have had more output. To see Pyle go down that way was just really sad, and that really should be the nail in the coffin for Pyle, because while he's lost to younger, more athletic, more powerful fighters before, like Jordan Meehan, Matt Brown, now he's losing to guys like Alberto Mina. And while Garcia was definitely more athletic than him, should not have won the fight on the feet. I mean, Pyle's chin is severely compromised at this point, but that's one Pyle should have been able to pull out. I felt that the Sean Spencer matchup was a much tougher one to overcome than this one. So, yeah, Pyle should retire, and Garcia, honestly, doesn't really prove anything. I mean, he landed a big shot against a 40-year-old guy who has a ton of tread on his tires at this point, and who has a severely compromised chin. So, not excited about Garcia going forward. But yeah, I'd love to see Powell retire. Thatch versus Price. Did not know anything about Price going into this fight. Went with Connor Rebish's pick from the MMA Vivisection. Went with his pick. Felt that Price wasn't high level enough to beat Thatch. And man, Thatch, I knew it. I said it in my video going into this fight. Thatch cannot grapple. He cannot grapple a lick. Fourth submission loss in a row, and a couple of those in the first round. A couple of those were against high-level guys. I mean, you can't completely knock the guy, getting submitted by Ben Henderson and Gunnar Nelson. But he just looks like a fish out of water on the ground. Just looked like a bonehead when he had that Kimura locked in against Price, and it looked like he might almost get it. But then when he clearly wasn't going to be able to finish him with it, and had the chance, had created that opening to escape, get back to his feet, he chose to keep chasing it and just ended up on his back again. So it really just shows that he really is a fish out of water on the ground. He's a low IQ fighter there, and you just can't survive in the UFC with that weak of a ground game, that poor of ground defense. So pretty sad for Thatch. And, Price showed some decent grappling skills. I don't know what that means going forward, but, we'll see in his next fight. I think we'll be able to gauge him better against a different opponent, a guy who wasn't on a 3-fight losing streak. And then Oliveira versus Means. Tim, it's really unfortunate how the fight ended, and I will definitely get into the stupidity that surrounded that, the whole illegal knee situation. But sad the fight ended that way because Means was looking great, and this was really kind of a stepping stone fight. I mean, not that Oliveira is a highly ranked fighter or really has any big wins, but just style-wise, a big physical guy who could grind him when Means has struggled with wrestlers in the past, Danny Castillo, Jorge Masvidal, and even and over the hill, John Howard very recently. I thought that Oliveira would really be able to put that size on him and get him down, but there was just such a disparity in how do I say it? Means just looked a lot more comfortable in there as an MMA fighter, whereas Oliveira is a guy who's kind of big and lanky and has some power and has some wrestling, but really hasn't been able to put it together. And Means was just so much more fluid than him. With everything that he was doing on the feet, Oliveira had nothing for him. Means hurt him early and often, and Oliveira was absolutely the wrong pick. Means should have been the pick here, and I would pick him in a rematch. Really expose Oliveira's lack of a fluid, cohesive MMA game. And then the illegal knee, Mark Ratner is just an idiot. The guy should be vilified. The whole in-fight commentary when they ring this guy up to try to explain things. Most of the time, he just doesn't add anything informative to the situation. But this time, he was just wrong, and then trying to cover it up, saying that it was the referee's discretion. And it was up to the referee's discretion to determine whether it was a downed opponent or not. I mean, the guy is just ignorant. He's dumb, and I don't want to just be a jerk. Name calling a guy here, but what stupidity. One knee down. Everyone knows that that's always meant a downed opponent. I don't know why Tim Means was trying to, when he was doing all the theatrics after the action had stopped, thinking that he was supposed to explain to everyone that one knee down meant he was in the clear for knees to the head. I don't know how this guy Mark Ratner can be so stupid. I really don't. He obviously cannot do his job. The head of regulatory affairs, the guy doesn't know the rules. He's incompetent at that. I mean, I'm sure that's not even his actual job to know the rules. But don't try to make this guy look like an expert, because the average MMA fan is way smarter than this guy. Although I did see some people on Twitter saying that, if it was one knee down, they were talking about the other leg. They're saying that on the replay, it showed that the foot came up. So, that meant it was illegal, means his knees were legal, which was just as dumb as whatever Ratner was trying to say. But one knee down, I mean, if Mark Ratner hadn't come in and you asked anyone, any MMA fan on the street, it was one knee down and a downed opponent, 98% of the fans would know the answer to that. And Matt Ratner just came in and confused everyone, and it doesn't make any sense, because this was not related to the hand rule at all that's changing. The hand rule only applies when the guy is not on a knee, but one knee is always meant downed opponent. So very strange and just absurdly ignorant on Ratner's part to botch that call. Yeah, so those are my picks for UFC, or those were the results of my picks for UFC 207. That's my recap. Kind of long and drawn out, and I probably am very boring to listen to, and I hope my recaps aren't that shitty in the future. But this is kind of an initial test run. We had to break it in. This wasn't going to be a high quality recap. I'm just kind of spewing over here, tired and wanting to sleep. But yeah, I think we covered everything. There's 316 again, 81,410 points, 302 out of 493 correct picks. 109 perfect, 84 bonuses. These are the leagues that I'm in. 7 here, and I haven't looked in here. So for the rest of the video, I'm just going to kind of see where I finished within these leagues. I'm going to look through my trophy case, and then I'm going to show my picks for every event since Tough Line America 3. So I'm sure you've tuned out by now, but if you haven't done so already, please feel free to do so now. So 85 looks like in Twi MMA. Let's check out this one. 62. 49. UFC Latino. Jeff Hanneman tribute. Where am I here? What? Oh, I'm number 6. I don't know why it didn't light up, but well, maybe because I was in the top 25 or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I see a couple of my my brethren there from Twitter, like JRZ MMA, Double Zeus, Dan Diablo, Kate Pretty Hate, all my my fellow Twitter brothers and sisters. So Kristen Nicole. Some of these guys didn't even make all the picks. Okay, so that's pretty cool. JRZ MMA. Where am I here? My number 1. Oh, there's Flying Brian J. Number 9. MMA Mania. There's Flying Brian J again. These are both Flying Brian J's leagues, I think. Number 5. So Flying Brian J did pretty good. Probably the only guy I follow that. Well, let me go back to this one. Okay, yeah, so I did better than my other friends here. Yeah, Flying Brian J, I think the only guy I know who I follow on Twitter and communicate with that did better than me this year. MMA Mania 5. Oh, that's the one we just looked at. And, oh, these are Flying Brian J's 2 leagues, Flying Squad and MMA Mania. 11 in this one. All right, so those are my leagues, and I guess you can be in unlimited leagues. So I'll happily join anyone's league out there. Let's go to my trophy case. So I scored 80,000 points this year. That's a trophy, and like I said, I don't remember how many points I scored last year or the previous year. But definitely for last year, I'll put the video there in the description. So you and as well as myself can compare. Let's just look at my trophy case here. And 10 picks right in one event. Scored 80,000 points. Never really looked around here in the trophy room. Ranked top 100 for one event. I believe that was UFC 205, if I'm not mistaken. Ranked top 500 overall in 2016. I believe this is at any point in the year if you were ranked in the top 500, not just finishing in the top 500, which they should. I don't know why they don't have a trophy for that. There should absolutely be one, for your final ranking. but I'm pretty sure this is just at any point. And I do have that for 2014. I don't know what happened to this pick all event for 2016. Maybe that's still updating, but I don't know why that's locked because I definitely picked all events. So let's just look around in 2015 just because I haven't seen this before, and I'm not going to spend any time here. Just I think this is crazy that they go from like 500 to 125. I mean, it should be more equal, like more spread out. Like 500, 400, 250. Oh, and I was level 27 this year. I don't know how many away I was from the next. 47 away from 28. So we got to get to 30 next year. Level 30. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. 2014. So here for 2014, see, I have that top 500 overall in 2014, but I don't have my final ranking on video. And then 2013, I started like in the middle of the year in April, I think. So didn't have much for 2013. And then, I wanted to go to my picks. And we're going to go to the Tough 3 finale. For every event before that one, I showed my picks in one video or another. I'm sure you guys don't care to see it. I did like one big update one, I think, for I think it was for the Tough finale. But yeah, and then the one before this was UFC 204, right? Yeah, so that's the last one I got on video. So we'll start with Teflon America 3, and this is just going to be really quick. And then I'll show my my overall ranking for each event as well after I show you my picks here. So I called that McGregor title fight perfectly, second round TKO. I picked Weidman in my video, and then I just had an awakening the day of the fight. I just thought that Romero was going to, continue his third round TKO streak, KO streak. And I know this sounds like the douchiest thing ever to say, but I was so close to taking Boch by knockout in this one. I had picked Cesar Fajea in this fight in my video, and I switched to Hermanson, and I was just kicking myself in the ass afterwards. It should include your overall ranking for the event here. Then I wouldn't have to go through all those pages to get that on video. Black Beast. I had called third round TKO in my video, and that was going to be my pick. And then I just ended up going with round 4. So I was kind of bummed about that. Man, Aubin Mercier looked incredible against Drew Dober. And he still got dropped. The thing that's always plagued him still happened, and he still looked incredible and won. All right, so that's it. And now I want to show my ranking for each event. Since the Tough Latin America 3 finale. So how do I go back here? Oh, per event, of course. Actually, we don't have to work our way back up through all of them if we just start with most recent and work our way back. So 6,473 for 207. Van Zandt versus Watterson, 2,513. 206, 1,067. Albany, 700. Tough Finale, 2,291. $2,339. Melbourne. Bader Noguera, 6,354. Saucy Hall 2, 688. 205, 617. So I can't remember which event I was top 100 in. Maybe I can look that up. Or it might have been, I think, one of the International Fight Week events. 4,662 for Tough Latin America finale. I want to find which event I was top 100 in. This might take a while. Strap in, guys. It's going to be a long ride. Okay, we found it. 203, Miocic versus Overeem. That's right. I remember that one. It would be really nice if I could just transition to my picks to see the picks I made for this event without having to go to a different page. They got to get some better, programmers database guys to work on this, because this is amateur stuff right here. Okay, so I guess that's it. I'm not going to go through the rest of them. I think I got my rankings for the event on video before, but if I didn't, that's okay. But well, you know what? Maybe I should. I definitely got my picks on video, but I don't know about. Yeah, so just tune out now, guys. I can't imagine any of you sticking around to watch this whole thing, but if you did, for whatever reason, thank you. Thank you very much. $316 for Tough 23 finale. Not too shabby. Not at all. I'd also love to know how many people play this thing. I think I saw like in these tweets here where people tweet out their ranking for each event. I think I saw someone tweet out. Can't remember if it was 30,000 or 60,000. I think it was 60,000. But I'd love to know, like, again, like, why can't they just put that in there? All right, we're getting close. All right. That is it, guys. Thank you. I will have my predictions up for Fight Night 103, Rodriguez versus Penn, very soon. I already filmed them, but by the time you're watching this, they'll most likely be up. So check the description for a link to that. But that is it, guys. Thank you very much.